All right, I got it. Okay, so I want to welcome everybody that's here right now, and we'll, let everybody, whoever wants to join us in afterwards, do that. This is part of a series that I've been doing at the Arts House called the Arts and Culture Conversations, which is basically to start conversations on topics that are pertinent, different issues, the whole goal is to allow people to share their stories, to offer possible collaborations, whatever is possible in the arts. And we know that there are many possibilities there. I want everybody, the goal is to inspire one another, and to create a large network of people that believe in basically the impact and power of the arts. That's all I have ever talked about my entire career, which spans a very long time. I won't put a time limit on it, but that's all I've ever spoken about. I believe in it 100%, and this has been the outcome. So what I want to do, these are just meant to be very informal conversations. I really want just basic conversation among everybody. So what I'm going to do is, Lori, I'm going to start with you since you have to leave early. So I'm just going to ask you to introduce yourself for, a couple of very brief introduction, who you are, where you're from, and then we'll take it from there.
Okay. So hello, everybody. I'm Lori Armstrong. I am a sexual assault advocate with WCJ, the Women's Center of Jacksonville here in Florida. I've been with them about 8 years now, and I facilitate one of our, April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and we have events, fundraising events, awareness events throughout April. And I facilitate Surviving to Thriving, which is always the last Friday of every month. And I started to say, and Martha actually is one of our artists who has participated 3 years now, I think, Martha, right? And during COVID, we were talking earlier, we were really upset that we weren't going to be able to do it. How are we going to do it? So we did a virtual Surviving to Thriving, which I think came out. There was, believe it or not, there was a lot more work involved in the virtual Surviving to Thriving than the actual, but we pulled it off. I was really proud of how it came off. It's online, and we have some amazing art and spoken word on there. I just think it came out really, really good. So this is our second year of our live shows. We're holding it at a little, and I'm originally from New York, so that's why I said earlier, I said, I'm among a bunch of Yankees, so so that's pretty cool. It's always, New York is always here, it'll never leave. But so this year we're doing Surviving to Thriving. We have approximately 16 pieces that I mentioned earlier. I am not an artist, but a lover of art. So I appreciate everything you all do. So we're doing it, we have about 16 pieces. We have about 13 to 16 spoken word pieces. I mentioned earlier that a lot of people that have submitted anonymously in the past, or have just have done a painting, any kind of visual art, some people are actually returning and doing spoken word pieces. So I find that really interesting, because I think, survivors can also present anonymously. Maybe they're not ready to speak out or to put their name on a piece of art. And I just, it really gives them a way to cope, to heal, to show anger, however they want to express themselves through art. And I just, I love that we're able to give that platform, and a safe space for people to be able to do that. And one, I'm going to make it really quick. And another, I'm excited this year, we have a project, two survivors, Samantha Dellett and Brian Fry, I believe his name is. They're doing a project called Every 68 Seconds Project. Check them out on Instagram. They have been photographing survivors, black and white photographs, with writing wherever they choose. I mean, most, I don't know if they have any male survivors. I hope they do. But a lot of survivors are topless and they cover their breasts with their arms like this, and they choose to have what they want written on their body. If they want to wear a turtleneck, they can wear a turtleneck and just have something written alongside of their neck, you know. It's totally up to the survivor. And it could be quotes or specific words. You know, there's a couple examples that were written, but you don't love me. Why didn't you report him? So it might be from a friend and how they reacted to the assault. It might be something that just stuck with the survivor. Somebody said to their friend, that's rape, you were raped. You know, so it's really powerful, and they're going to be black and white photographs, and they're trying to get 68 survivors. I think they're up to like 50 something now, but we're going to have a whole room dedicated off to the other visual pieces that we have. And we're excited to have them be a part of it. It's just something that they had started this year. So yeah, so we're, you know, this is our 25th year of doing Surviving to Thriving. I've only been doing it within the last 6 years. It's grown so much from this, you know, little space to this cool, funky little, it's called Bab's Lab it reminds me of like an off Broadway kind of a venue. But it's very cool, and there's a lot of work that goes into it, but I always love it. And I appreciate all the survivors that want to take part in it.
Yeah. Question, I'm just curious, have you guys ever done like dance therapy workshops for the survivors?
The art therapy?
Dance
we
therapy,
were
specifically.
Dance therapy.
Dance. Yeah.
No,
Because it all
we do
has
have
to
some
deal
people
with body and feelings and, you know.
No, I would love that.
I just
You know,
happen to know
we
somebody
really-
in your area that works with me.
Really?
That's why I was asking. Yeah.
Yeah. No, definitely put them in touch.
I highly recommend it. I've done that for myself. It's amazing.
Yeah, because it all stems from the body and your feelings and your emotions, and you know, the act of just movement is very powerful, you know, and very expressive for a lot of individuals. I was a creative arts therapist.
Martha does workshops, and we haven't really gotten anything going with survivors, and that's definitely not off the table, but she's done some work for our advocates, and she's amazing. So you have to see some of Martha's work.
Thank you.
She's a big proponent of WCJ, of us here at the Women's Center. So we're
Terrific. Yeah. The art that you have, you know, at the exhibit, are you allowed, you know, to share it? Is it going to be on, you know, you're going to be able to put it online, or spoken word?
We'll be able to share it. And I know that you had asked me to share some tonight, but I didn't get it, and my apologies. But we will. I'll get it to you. We will have pictures, and we can share it.
Terrific. Okay, so and then I'll be able to share that after the fact, because what I'm hoping is this actually will spark more of a conversation for at least the rest of the, you know, throughout the year. So definitely.
Excellent.
I thank you.
Well, thanks for having me today. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I thank you. We might as well go to Martha, since you guys are connected that way, and that's actually how I got to you. So Martha, why don't you introduce yourself and, you know, tell us a little bit about, you know, who you are and your background.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. So my name is Marta Lluch. I'm originally from Venezuela, and I got here because I reached out to Lori 3 or 4 years ago when I got here to Jacksonville, because I learned about Surviving to Thriving, and it was in 2020 that I was able to participate. And ever since, I just, it's something I like to keep as a tradition and be part of it every year. And as when it comes to myself, like I'm an architect, I'm also an artist, and I've been dwelling in the subject of creativity for the last, I guess at this point is 6 years, when I made the connection of how just using my design process could also help me address the fact that I needed to confront the issue that I had been subjected to sexual abuse when I was a kid. And it just developed into this whole way of navigating life altogether that has really helped me not only heal, but create in a level that I never thought I was capable of. And like Lori mentioned, a few years ago, this year has not happened, but a few years ago, I started giving creativity workshops, kind of like to share a little bit that we all have that access, that we can all tap into creativity, what it really means, and also not only to address healing sexual violence, but just dealing with mental health in life altogether.
Yeah.
So that's basically what I've been doing as an artist, and as an architect. I've been working for like, I don't know, 15 years already. And it just ends up, I end up using what I've learned as a profession also as an artist.
Yeah. Well, you want to talk a little bit about the Little Raging Warrior? I mean, I just fell in love with the drawings, you know.
Thank you. So that was a product of, like, I think after my, I reached a point in therapy that we were doing dance therapy, dance movement therapy, but art therapy, and also EMDR, which was a technique that helped me process the flashbacks and get beyond, like get past it, and not be able to have to relive the situations every single time they will pop up. And because I'm so visual, the way I started processing the memories, this character started to show up. It was I ended up calling the Rage, which was the big guy that was protective and will punch everything for me. The little girl, and who's obviously myself when I suffered the abuse, and the warrior was this female figure that popped up also as like a protector, but a more integrated character. And I started doing this series of drawings, and it has evolved into new situations, and now there are new characters, and like it just continues to help me. At this point, they're just part of my psyche, and they're part of me. When something comes up, like that's how I process it. Like this characters come in and just help me figure it out in a way, and that's how the drawings appear, basically.
Well, that's it. It's kind of like almost like a storybook, you know. They just flow. It's just and I'll send everybody the link so that they can check out the site. But I found that very powerful.
Thank you. Yeah, at some point I felt like it would be at least just with the hopes that it could help somebody, you know, like you can tap into your own creativity and help heal. So that's why I share the drawings, and I share my process. And every time, like I kind of disconnect a little bit from social media, and then I go back and then share what I've been working on.
Right.
And yeah, that's how it's been evolving.
It's terrific. You know, it's the arts are an amazing vehicle. And just in how expressive you can be without using words, without saying things. I used to work with a lot of girls in juvenile detention, and the feelings, the first thing that they would say to me is, if you are here to sit down and do a regular group therapy talk session, you can walk out the door, because I don't want to talk anymore. So I said no, and I handed them a box of crayons and paper, and they were so much more expressive that way, laying out their entire lives, you know. And I would do that kind of a workshop over and over again with teachers and with social workers and community workers. And it was just so much more of an intimate, expressive way to approach just getting things out and talking, you know, without actually talking. That's what's so great about the arts, you know? Okay, Amanda, why don't you introduce yourself and a little bit about your background?
Yeah, sure, no problem. So my name is Amanda Mendoza. I'm a post-conviction victim advocate at the Connecticut Alliance to End Sexual Violence. I'm also separately an artist when I'm not punched in. So I guess just to touch on both. So the Connecticut Alliance to End Sexual Violence is a statewide coalition of individual sexual assault crisis centers across the state. And they focus on, providing victim assistance, as well as prevention education and public policy advocacy. And so some of the things that the Alliance has done with utilizing art to support survivors of sexual violence, there was a project called the Corazón Lastimado Project, which is the Healing the Wounded Heart. So there was an art exhibit that the Alliance had hosted in 2014. So it initially started in March 2001 in Texas by Arte Sana, which is an anti-sexual violence organization there, in collaboration with La Peña, a Latinx arts organization. So this project was essentially trying to highlight survivors' voices that we weren't hearing, which were Latinx survivors. So there would be like these wooden heart cutouts that they would ask survivors to paint. And I could drop the website links in the chat as well, just to express themselves in however, which way they wanted to. They could, paint it red and write, I'm a survivor, write in Spanish, write, or even, draw anything that they felt was a representation of their survivorship, their healing, their journey. So the Alliance, once they heard of this project, they also wanted to host their own exhibit. So on our website, which there's actual images of the hearts that are scanned onto the website. So I will drop that in the chat right now, just so you can click it and see. But if you scroll all the way down, you'll start to see like the wooden heart cutouts. So like there's a heart here that says, just because I'm Latina doesn't mean I should be treated differently. And keep soaring, have courage. And there was also, advocates that filled this out too. So allies to survivors. And so that was really nice to spread awareness, not only for, survivors in general, but also, again, reaching out to the Latinx community, which is often unheard. Some workshops we've done in the past too, because I used to do, I used to be an adult advocate / counselor at a member center as well. So I would host kind of like support groups, but I called it Healing the Heart, but capitalized art at the end, workshop. And I had ones that were for survivors of sexual assault, but also separately, a secondary survivor support group. So what we mean by secondary is like families or loved ones of the survivors. And I had a group of all parents who had children that were sexually abused. And so we would have these sort of like, for instance, like an ocean scene, but I would give prompts to how are you feeling today? Can you depict that within your sky? Like, are there thunderclouds? Are there, is there a sunset? And, are the waves of the ocean like roaring, or is it more calm and still? And, if you think about your support circle, we kind of had it be like a little island on the ocean, or it could be a boulder or a rock. And we would have the survivors or the parents of the survivors just share, throughout the workshop. It would range between like 2 to 3 hours on just like how that was for them. And there's been other prompts too, like I would have them write down right in the beginning on a piece of paper, like 10 things that bring them joy, and associate colors to each of those things. And then we would pull out the canvas, take out the paint, and let them, paint freely, however they wanted to represent those colors. I had some people like add like feet to their canvas and painted it green and said, well, I really love like walks on like the grass. So I wanted that to remind me of that. And they take it home and they can, again, just to like help remind them of that, what gives them joy, that sort of thing. So those are like some of the ways that we try to incorporate art, because as you had just said, Lois, like it can be really hard expressing how we're feeling into words, that I think art just does such a wonderful way of representing everything that we're feeling. And I guess just to touch, I know I'm looking at the clock too, just to touch briefly about myself, like I guess artwork wise. So I'm also a survivor of childhood sexual abuse. And art, when I was a kid, I didn't realize what had happened to me. I didn't have a word for it. But I could see it all in like my drawings of just, darkness and just, confusion of like, I mean, I know they say like when you're a teenager, you're kind of angsty and, you're in a mood, but like there were real like complex emotions happening up here. And I think art saved me, and I think art saves so many people. And so sort of what I do with my art now is just continue to spread awareness of sexual violence, the impacts of trauma. I do have some pieces behind me, just kind of expressing, how I viewed my childhood, but also how I'm going through this journey of healing, because as I'm sure we all know, it's not linear. I wish it went up all the time, but it dips down. And I've hosted fundraisers with my artwork as well, like having them on like little sweatshirts, and raised money for, as well as domestic violence shelters too. So I try to touch on all the impacts of violence has had like in my life or within my family circles too. But yeah, so that's a little bit about me. Yeah.
Okay, I thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
I have questions afterwards, but what I'd like,
Of course.
why don't you, introduce yourself and a little bit about you?
And I have to go. I am so sorry. It's my
Oh.
time. I have to. So I'm sorry, Connie, I didn't get to hear everybody else. But thank you for having me, and I look forward to hearing the
I will speak to you, after
Okay,
next week.
awesome.
I will get in touch with you and we'll go over things. And,
Martha.
okay, thank
Okay.
you so much.
Sounds good. Amanda, thank you for what you do. Martha, I'll see you tomorrow.
Nice to meet you.
All right, you also. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Connie,
Okay,
all yours.
okay.
Trying to send the link.
I am a playwright, and I've been doing this for over 40 years. I spent a lifetime in the theater, but I am also a writer of other things as well, books and poetry. And I do a little visual art, but my sister was my visual artist, my touchstone for visual art. She was just phenomenal. When she was older, she was already married, and I told her, we were working at Carnegie Mellon University because I wanted to get my master's there. And I said, you take your portfolio into them. I said, and they don't even take non-traditional students, but if you take your portfolio, and I'll give you $20 and I'll bet you they accept you on the spot. She said, if I don't get accepted, will you still give me the 20? I said, absolutely. And she went in, and she had an amazing style. It was Peter Max and Escher put together. So I didn't even know that we had been violated at the same time, more or less, that these things happened to us, the sexual abuse happened to us at the same time. And it's funny how it appeared in her artwork and in my writing, in my theater. And it's really interesting how interwoven we were in the process. And I think that is the main thing that I am concerned with most, is process and understanding process. And we talk about the importance of art in our lives and in schools and just in general, and why it's important for us is because I believe that we are all human life forms, and we can conform, reform, deform to our experiences and by our experiences. But when we engage in art, in the process, we can perfect the form. We can actually move through the pain with the process, because in process, we do two things at once. I think we concentrate on what we're doing and what we think we're doing, and then we also pay attention to what's going on, whether it be a play, a dance, a piece of art, or whatever. The process takes its own toll on us, and it takes its own guide to show us where it wants to go. That's the coolest thing I feel about art. And when we engage in that process, the past and the future kind of disappear, and we're in the center channel and we move forward. Not linear, but we move forward with the art.
Mm.
Agree 100%.
Yeah, it's just like, wow, okay. The process is, what, in my opinion, what this is all about, it's not so much the product, the end product is the product, it's there. For the healing purposes, it's all about the process. If we don't get involved in the process, then there won't be any healing that's going on. Just doing the art itself, when you pick up a paintbrush, when you pick up a pencil, I know when I paint or when I draw or when I write, I get so absorbed in the process that I lose reality around me. And then when you look at the product and you review it and you think about it, that's when the healing starts. My curiosity with all of you is, what's the reaction to that product that you are then putting out there for other people to see? How is somebody else reacting to what you're putting out?
Well, I'll speak briefly on that. I have a play called Garrett the Blue Giraffe, and it's about a giraffe who wants to be a rhinoceros. And every time I do it, no matter how I do it, full length, musical, whatever I do it with, people come up to me afterward and say, or actors come up to me and they'll say, this is more than just a giraffe, and I didn't write anything in there to talk about the actual experiences. And one woman, an actress in New York, she actually came out as a trans woman. And she said, she wrote online that she had to come out and that she felt this transformation happening because of the play. She was in the play, she played the giraffe, and she just came out and she said, I never thought I would be able to do this, but this is what I'm doing. And she had some unbelievable experiences.
Yeah. Anybody else have any reaction, to other people seeing your work?
I can share too. Definitely mixed reviews. Some people, I think, are very open and welcoming to the conversation. I just was showing some work last weekend at an art show for these two pieces that are very specific memories that I have about the sexual abuse. And I had people come up and ask questions and say, do you feel like there's enough resources for survivors? And do you feel like the criminal justice system has changed in the last 10 years, but in a positive way towards survivors? And so that was really nice to have.
Yeah.
But I've also had instances where, maybe there's the silence, the nod, okay. But I've also, in college, I was working on a ceramics piece revolving around sexual violence as well. And I had the professor who's actually very well known and has over 100,000 followers on Instagram. I remember these words and it impacted me so much. Because I noticed like he was helping all the students in the class, like with their project, and it would come to me and he would just walk past. And then when it came around to grading, he was like, okay, just like for future reference, art can also be like abstract. Like you don't always have to like essentially be very direct about what you're trying to say. And I remember feeling like so like ashamed almost, like because I look back now and I'm like, no, he was in the wrong for saying that to me. But as a student, right, who looked up to him, I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm doing something wrong. Like this was too much for people. And I noticed for some time I wasn't really doing the art that I wanted to do. I was doing a lot of art that was catering to what other people wanted to see. I'd have family be like, oh, you should like paint like beaches and stuff, which is fine. Like if you want to, do that, but there's imagery that I was trying to get across that I couldn't put into words. And so, and I could only imagine if there's any other survivor artists or survivor playwrights, like who want to get that work out there. And if there's people who are kicking them down, it's like, no, like this is how we're trying to thrive. Like, and these words are going to touch people's hearts, but there's so many like barriers to get it all
There's
out
a lot
there.
of different layers. No teacher, nobody should ever say to somebody, what you're doing is wrong. First of all, there's no right or wrong in art.
Correct.
You're expressing yourself. If somebody asked you to do a graphic design in a specific way, that's one thing. But when you're doing your own art, for somebody to come in and then say, well, don't do it that way, do it a different way, or it's just, in my mind, that just gets my vote. So it's like,
Yeah.
if I were there, I'd want to punch the guy in the face. It reminds me of a time when my son was in second grade and the art teacher had called me in because he was not drawing the tree the way he was supposed to draw a tree. And I always taught my kids to do, be expressive, do whatever you want. And I had the biggest fight with the teacher over the fact that, how do you tell somebody what they're doing is not correct when all they're trying to do is express themselves? It's damaging, especially to young children and survivors in general. When you're trying to say something for your art, nobody has the right to say that it's wrong.
And for me, like I'll just chime in with two things that have come out from me sharing my own story and sharing my art. Granted, there's always somebody that's going to have an opinion, but that's really not who I'm talking to or I'm interested in listening to. But the two things that I've found that have been really powerful, one is how impactful it is that when you share your story through art, you give other permissions to do the same and give them the space of like either a me too, or like, that didn't happen to me, but this happened to me. I didn't know I could use art. And then the other thing is, even beyond specific, I know that we're talking specifically about sexual violence, but there are so many commonalities from experiencing trauma in general. And through art, what I found is people that maybe have not experienced this type of trauma, but through my drawings, they're like, oh my God, that's exactly how I feel when I get PTSD, or when I'm anxious, or when things trigger me. So there is like an equalization that happens when you share your art, when you get past the noise of whoever has an opinion or tells you how to do things or whatnot. And that's what I find really nurturing and really impactful.
Well, that's it. Connie, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, here's a comment for you. I had an editor say to me about this piece we're going to do tonight. The therapist, he said, just because it happened doesn't make it interesting. How's that for a critic? Huh?
Wow. It's like, thank you. I'll move on. I kindly disagree.
And that's it. That's it, Martha. That's the key. Art empowers us to be able to connect with our spirit, our creative spirit, so that it doesn't matter. And those people just fall away, you know?
Mm.
I mean, the Greeks said it, you know, art is to entertain, to educate, and exalt the spirit. And that's
And
the goal.
empowering. It's
Yeah,
very
exactly.
empowering for the individual.
Exactly.
And when it raises a dialogue, like you know, like you said, that's a different aspect of it. That's why it covers a very diverse, you know, aspect. It's healing for the individual, and then when you put it on display, it could raise a dialogue, create a safe space for others to say, hey, maybe I felt like that maybe that actually did happen to me. Maybe I could talk to somebody. Maybe, you know, I'm not alone. It brings in a collective thinking that, okay, I'm safe here looking at this and talking about that. Like you said, critics in art always, you know, I know there's this capitalistic thing, you know, and great artists are out there selling their artwork for fortunes of money, but, you know, it always got my craw when, you know, if somebody would say, well, that's, you know, you should do it this way, or you should, you know, you should eliminate that, or, you know, you, like you said, you should draw beaches and you should draw a sun. It's like, I did the same thing when I did a workshop with teens, and they told me to allow them to express themselves and talk about their community. And it was the outcome of the mural was very dark and bleak. And the organization refused to exhibit it because it was not jolly and happy and sunshine.
Because it's the only emotion that is acceptable in the human experience.
Right? You know, I said, that's not what you hired me for. That's not what this was all about. But that's, you know, it's some people still believe, you know, that you need to, in order to feel good, you need to see smiling faces and not deal with anything else. But
Well,
you know,
my response to that is always the clouds have to move out before the sun can shine, you know?
yeah,
So you have to work on the clouds first.
yeah. Connie, I was going to ask you about your book, Drawing on the Divine, and a lot of your sisters' lithos are in there, and it's about her healing process as well. Did her process of creating the art, did it help her to heal?
Absolutely, absolutely. She was raped pretty violently at one point in her life, and it was a stranger who just happened into her house, one of those freak experiences. She was waitressing through college, and somebody followed her home. She has a series of drawings that went, it became it was a series of lithographs that were, they were in a show at Pittsburgh Action Against Rape, and they're single line drawings, and they're so expressive. And I knew they were about rape, but I didn't even know it was her rape at the time when the show went up. And now that I've looked at them even more, it tells an incredible story with just lines, you know. And I found that's the other thing in my research. I'm always researching theory and art theory, and this whole idea of actualism. You know, we have realism, naturalism, expressionism, surrealism. But I think right now, the fact that we are all tapping into an inner truth, we're tapping into the actual energy of life, actual. So the work that we're doing, I think, as artists is going to be called actualism. And her work was so poignant at the time and now even it's single lines, and that is the unifying force, you know, in architecture, in art, in poetry, in drama. That's the unifying force, the line. You know, that's how we build our art, through a line. And then we as creations ourselves, we have a lifeline, you know. So that's, you know, that's what I've been exploring. But yeah, my sister Mickey, her work was always expressive, and that dark period that she had was very accepted at the Women's Center in Pittsburgh. And when Parr grabbed that up and did it ran for about a month, I think. It was very powerful. And a lot of people would just come into the lobby and be looking around, and some of them would just sob, you know, stand in front of her work and sob. And it's single line drawings.
Yeah. Well, that reminds me of one of the exercises as a creative arts therapist and art therapists always use, you know, the doodle drawings to initiate and use as prompts. And it's nothing more than starting with a line and taking it wherever it can go.
Absolutely.
You know, so you're right in that respect. I never actually thought of it that way. You know, when I think of the doodle workshops that I would teach and all that yeah, all starts with one little mark and line on the paper. Yeah, sounds good. As my curiosity and all that, I know we've talked about the healing process. I really would love to know your feelings about how the arts have actually impacted your life, and what you think that if you didn't have the art that you would be able to express, do you think the healing process would have taken a different turn? Do you think, you know, how would it have not or actually affected you in that way?
I can chime in on that. Basically, because even though I studied architecture, interesting enough, I never considered myself an artist because that was just the profession and what I was taught to do for work. And I used to paint a lot when I was a kid, up until high school, and then I stopped for like 10 or 15 years. And those were my worst depressive periods. Those were the times that I did not have words to express what I was feeling. I hadn't even come to terms that what was triggering all of this was abuse, and that I was abused, and who it was. Like, none of this was in, I was not aware of this, and I was going through this depressive periods, and it was really hard because I didn't have the words, and I thought that I had to be quote unquote perfect to be an artist. So I relinquished anything that had to do with creating outside of my work. And it wasn't until like 2015 that I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like, this is, I need to get this out somehow. And I read the book Big Magic by Liz Gilbert, and it really triggered me back into going back to art. And it has been pivotal in my recovery. Like, I don't think I would be able to navigate life the way I do now. I don't think I would be able to progress in my own healing psychologically and physically and in the other aspects of healing if I wouldn't have art as a tool. Like, I don't see it happening. I tried it. It didn't work out.
I totally agree with you 100%. I feel the same way. At the period of my life when I stopped creating was I hit bottom, you know, and it was sometimes trauma and hitting bottom then actually precipitates a creative spurt. You know, it's like then you can all of a sudden you can get all of these things out. I remember sitting down and one day and just, I mean, drawing and writing and, you know, and I hadn't stopped. I totally agree with you. I believe, obviously, that's what I've always done, and that's what the Arts House is all about. It's about the impact and the power of the arts. It's about the arts as a health and wellness tool, in everyday life. It's more than just putting a painting on the wall. It's about how that makes you feel freely without the critics. Sometimes we're our own worst critics.
Oh yeah.
And we have to get that, we have to eliminate that from our thought process in order to actually heal.
And the one thing I've learned afterwards is that one of the big benefits of art is when you experience trauma, you lose the capacity to tell a story, the story of what happened from beginning to end.
Mm-hmm.
So that triggers a whole set of, side effects and whatnot in the body and in the mind. And that's when you hit that spot that you do not have the words to express what you're feeling. But if you can put it in an image, if you can just like scratch on a paper, like it really helps you move through the emotion or the experience, even if you don't have the words to identify it.
Exactly. That's why a lot of times, in a art therapy session, we start with the doodle. It's not the image. Or in a writing session, we start with brain drain, just putting words on paper. It doesn't have to make any sense. Eventually it will, but it's just that process of emptying everything out and getting it out that's more important, because once you start, that flow takes over, and that's when the healing happens. Amanda, have you thought it, you feel anything, about that?
Yeah, I definitely 110% agree with everything that's being said. I feel like art, because there have definitely been long periods of time where I hadn't done art, and I would I was doing anti-sexual violence research in college, so I kind of feel like I buried my brain in my thesis. And while it felt rewarding and that I was learning all this stuff, I still felt like my mind was jumbled, and I think the impacts of my trauma really made me dislike myself. I really hated who I was, and I couldn't pinpoint why. And of course I learned later it was trauma. So when I went officially decided, all right, I'm going to therapy, I also did EMDR as well, which is eye movement, right? EM, right? Yeah, eye movement desensitization reprocessing.
There you go.
Yes, there we go. It's a mouthful.
I always forget.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because there would be these images that would come into my brain as I was processing trauma, and I would doodle, and I was showing my therapist during my sessions, oh, here's this doodle of the scene that I had made up in my head in our last session. And she'd be like, wow, that's great. Maybe you should keep doing that. And I really feel like art, in whatever form it is, it's almost like a form of meditation for me, right? Because you get so lost in it.
Yeah.
And I'm someone that really struggled with staying present. And I really feel like just whether it was putting paint on a canvas or doodling in a sketchbook, that was what was keeping me still, in this moment, while also still processing whatever scene that I wanted to put in. And I think especially having my works now framed, or if, finished as it can be, it's also, I look at it and it's validating. I'm validating my experience, looking at this piece of work that I've put hours into, and yes, this is how I feel as a survivor, or this is what I was thinking when I was a child, or however it is. And so I do think it's, without those things, I don't think I would have been doing as well during EMDR. And as maybe dark as it sounds, with our art, I don't think I would still be here. And I think 100%. Many people can feel that. And I know that's right, scary to say, but it's
not at all.
It's true. People go, resort to music, to books, to things to just bring them back to, I guess, what makes them feel safe. And I think that's that's definitely what art does for me. Just, I feel it's like a warm hug, surrounded by the lines.
I love that explanation.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is, and we need to, that's what I want to do. That's the goal, is to just constantly talk about power and the impact of the arts and get it out to
Ruth,
everybody.
okay.
So that's the goal.
Yeah.
That's definitely the goal. Okay, it's almost,
All right, well, I have to go to the bathroom.
okay, it's almost 6 o'clock, and we are going to go into Connie's play in a minute. So if anybody wants to take a very quick break, that would be a great idea right now. And then, and if not, then we can continue. And Connie, I'd love for you to, are all your actors and performers here?
I don't have the list. Let me see if I can view the list of people.
Yes, we're all here.
Oh, okay, thank you,
Okay, so-
Carrie.
You're welcome. I'm that that figure on the screen with a voice emanating. Yes, we are.
Okay, terrific. So Connie, why don't you introduce the play, and then we can sit back and your actors can do their thing, and then we can talk about it afterwards.
Okay, sure. I have been surrounded the last 30 years of my life with amazing artists that gravitate to me and help me all the time. And when you talk about if you wouldn't be doing your art, I agree with you that I would be not here because it was so hard. And it was so, Amanda, it's hard to say that, but I said that for many, many years. And then all of a sudden, like you said, Lois, you just start, it just turns itself around and you get so into the art and the art gets better and better. And then when you get support people in groups and such that help you and help you with your art and help you see it, and then you share it, and it's just an amazing experience.
Yeah.
This play is called Therapist, and it hit me. It came through a balance between therapy, a young girl in therapy, which I never really went to extended therapy. I went to a hypnotist when I was young. I had an exorcism when I was young. I was trying to silence the pain. I was self-medicating with drugs and alcohol. And I went down to like 80 pounds and didn't sleep or eat for 3 months. I was taking diet pills to stop the images. And back in the day, this is the
What's
70s.
wrong?
In the 70s, there was always a problem with being able to come out with these things when these things would come out, and we couldn't talk about it. So it was, this is the most wonderful thing. I have talked about sexual awareness. I later on went and taught at the university for 15 years, and I always brought this up, and I always brought up the idea that it's wonderful to talk about it and get it out there, and that's part of the healing process. But on top of that, the art is just amazing. So in this play, you will see the therapist, and you will see Jojo, who is the victim, who was my experience. And there's 3 parts to it: the incident of what happened to her, and then the transformation after the healing, after the therapy, after the therapist. And the transformation comes through an experience that really happened to me. It was an experience that I believe that I met my guardian angel, and that really lifted me out of a situation where I could not control my anger, could not. I was mad at the world all the time. And no matter what I did, I was a waitress before I went to college, a cocktail waitress and a waitress. No matter what I did, it just felt icky. That's the best word I can come up with, icky, because it was just like, oh, I hate this. And I carried that continuously all through my teens. I was very young when my thing happened. I was 14. And I didn't think it was abuse. I thought it was just an incident. I didn't know how to deal with it. Like somebody else said, that we didn't have the words for it. It just happened. But this is a compilation of the parts of my life that actually try to process what happened to me and the healing. So the process, the event, the coping, and the healing. So we give you, Carrie, if you would like to introduce the cast. Carrie has directed this little piece for us online here.
Okay. So I will be playing the lead character of Jojo Fagoli. Dr. Michaels will be played by Beth Griffith. And the shadow figures, one of our shadow figures will be played by Matt Matthews. He will also be the narrator. And our other shadow figure will be played by Marina Chan. And it's just been a pleasure working on this experience, this whole play and piece, and with the actors. It's been really meaningful.
Therapist by Coni Koepfinger. Our characters are Jojo Fagoli, a best-selling fiction writer who is now in a mental ward. She is haunted by her flashbacks, and she pleads the case for her sanity. Dr. Michaels, who is Jojo's psychiatrist and who was away on sabbatical. When she returned, she found her patient in a straitjacket in isolation. We have shadow figures haunting Jojo from the future and the past. They represent people from Jojo's memory and her imagination. The time is early morning. The place is Jojo's isolation cell at Maywood Psychiatric Institution. As the lights come up, Jojo's sitting on her bed, struggling to get out of a straitjacket.
Nurse! Nurse! Get my doctor for me, please! Get Dr. Michaels! Please! Please, please! How does this always happen to me? Why does this always happen to me? I have to get out of here! Now! Lord God, get me out of here! I told the truth! You know that. I know that. So why is this happening to me? Why am I being punished? Get me out! Please! Please! Please!
Ominous voices begin to crackle as two shadow figures approach.
Hey now, Jojo. You really need to quiet down. Dr. Michaels is not your doctor anymore, sweetie. It's 3 a.m. You're disturbing the other patients. Now, be a good little girl, or I'm going to have to give you an ice bath.
She doesn't care. She'll love that. That's why she's in here. Oh, she's a big writer, and she's winning a big award. Or is she? She can't tell fact from fiction.
Shame on you, Jojo.
Hold her, hold her. I'll put a needle in her neck. It'll have a faster reaction.
No! Please, no! Dr. Michaels, get my doctor for me, please! Please, please! How does this always happen to me? Why does this always happen to me?
Blackout. The lights come up on the annual American Psychiatric Awards Convention, where Dr. Michaels is beginning her acceptance speech.
Thank you. Thank you, colleagues, friends. This award is the highest recognition a psychiatrist can receive, and I am honored, truly. My new book, Drawing on the Divine, evolved as a result of numerous case studies from my years working with artists. I've always admired artists. Most of us do. Even though so many of them are tortured souls, we look up to them. Now, I'm wondering, do we put them on pedestals because we think they are closer to God? Maybe they are. If we define God as a creator, then yes, the artist as creator is certainly closer to that source. But it's not easy. The artist draws on the divine for inspiration, but must live in our everyday mundane world. I started my career treating artists for bipolar disorder. Then it dawned on me that it wasn't a disorder at all. It was simply the artist's way of making sense out of worldly chaos. Take, for example, the actor. In order to do his job, we actually call on him to be schizophrenic. We ask him to be in the moment, yet we expect him to know the future. How many of us could go through an honest day's work knowing that we would win the lottery that evening, or be kind and loving to a partner that we know is not being true? Yet the actor plays his part, line by line, scene by scene, truthfully, and for a specific purpose. Art is much more important than we treat it in this society. Like bacteria in a petri dish, culture is formed by the mixing of certain substances. Humanity is really nothing more than an experiment in evolution, and art allows us to examine this process. It allows us to reflect on the past, visualize the future, so that we can center ourselves peacefully in the present.
Flashback. We see JoJo as a teenager. It's her first visit to Dr. Michael's office during the 1980s.
I'm Jamie Michaels, and you must be Jojo Fagoli.
Just so you know you're faking it, and I hate shrinks.
Yes, I do too.
You hate yourself.
No.
You're really not a shrink. I knew it.
How could you tell?
The look. That first look. You get it. You understand this nonsense.
What nonsense? Life?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. I can fly, you know? Everyone can.
I wish I could fly. I mean, that way we wouldn't have to sit in traffic every morning. And sometimes I look up and I see those birds sitting on a wire looking down at us saying,
"Shut up! Just shut the hell up!" What do you know about birds? Or flying? Or me? You're the enemy. You're the perpetrator, the traitor, the rapist. Get it? Therapist, the rapist. I thought I recognized you.
that's a new couch.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. It could use a little action. It's way too stiff, cheap leather.
You're weird. So how are you going to medicate me? You want to know my drug of choice?
No,
No.
no drugs. They don't seem to be working, so why would we continue?
Because I like drugs. I analyze them, what they do to my head. Sometimes I save them up and I take a whole bunch at once.
Oh, yeah. I tried that. It's kind of dangerous, you know. So, no meds.
Never.
Nope.
Why not? My last doctor gave me whatever I wanted. Ups, downs, whatever.
Jojo, may I ask you a question?
What?
Why did you start taking the diet pills?
Why else? To lose weight.
You were under 90 pounds.
So?
So at one point you were taking 8 double dexers a day, plus snorting cocaine, smoking pot, drinking alcohol. Did you know you were taking all of these things at once?
Of course. Well, I didn't think about it.
What are you taking now?
Nothing. Well, I mean, not really. Sorta, kinda.
What? What are you taking?
I don't know.
You don't know?
Are you deaf? I said, I don't know. Please, please, stop. Just stop.
Shadow figures emerge and violently grab JoJo, knocking her down, holding her as she gasps for air.
Please, please, please stop. Just stop. I'm ripping apart.
So pretty.
Still sweet cakes?
Pretty young thing.
Please get off me. I'm 14.
Age has nothing to do with it.
Do me wrong with my friend.
No, please, no. Help me.
I can help you, Jojo, if you let me, if you want help. Do you?
Yes, I guess so.
But no drugs.
Then what?
Hypnosis.
How?
It's like being on drugs, but without the chemical side effects. I heard you had some stomach issues. It's safer for that too.
Yeah,
But I can only do this with your permission.
seriously?
Yes,
But what is it?
it's a way to get into your head. Clean house.
Strange.
Yeah. But then again, the mind is a strange place. So, Jojo, if you decide that you want your past to stop haunting you, I think I can help, but only if you say so. We absolutely need your permission.
Okay. Do I have to lie down?
Unless you feel like sitting. I just want you to be comfortable.
What's going to happen?
Only the things that you want to happen, and with your permission.
Granted,
And it's based on trust.
I don't trust anyone.
No, you just have to trust yourself. If you trust yourself, then you'll trust that you're doing the right thing by trusting me.
May I take off my shoes?
You may.
I'm just going to sit up.
There's an intense moment of silence between them.
Okay. You've done this before?
Yeah, but it never works. We had a guy at prom last year.
Mhm.
He put a ton of people under, but nothing happened to me. It didn't work.
No, there's a big difference between stage hypnosis and clinical hypnosis. Stage hypnosis is for entertainment, but clinical hypnosis is to resolve deep-seated issues. So it tends to be more conversational. And when doing clinical hypnosis, we need to be in sync with our breathing. You and I need to be in sync.
Okay.
Well, I figure that if our minds are powerful enough to screw us up, then they should be powerful enough to heal us.
Makes sense to me.
Okay. But can I ask you a few questions before we start?
Sure.
You're 18, right?
Yes.
Any thoughts about what you want to do after graduation?
Yeah. I'm going to New York City.
Oh, no college?
Nope.
Why New York?
So I can disappear.
No, you can disappear anywhere. Why New York?
So my parents know I want to be a writer, right? And I really do. But even more, I don't want to ever hurt my parents. I love them a lot. They're super cool. I mean, but I am sick of people hitting on me like I'm a piece of meat. Every time, then the playback comes. Memories. It's like a nightmare, but I'm awake. I've got to stop the playback. I figure a couple bottles of scotch will do me in, right? I'll get killed in Central Park and that'll be it. My parents will have no idea, right?
Or something bad could happen in the park, but you might live to tell the story. Sounds terribly sad.
Like my past?
Well, you are not responsible for your past, but you definitely can have a hand in writing your own future.
Have a hand in writer.
Yeah, I think that was funny, but really it's not. I don't think you really want to do that. Maybe you are meant to go to New York. I mean, what if you're the next Shakespeare? I've heard you've written a play. What's it about?
Shadow figures enter and gently lift JoJo high into the air. They hold her up, then drop her, catching her at just the last minute as she falls.
Please, let me go.
You belong to us now.
You must be the sacrifice.
You bleed for us.
I'm only 14.
Remove her clothes.
You bleed for us.
Remove her skin. Remove her skin.
You bleed for us.
I'm only 14.
Take out the child within her womb.
I am the child.
Take out the child within her womb.
Don't touch me.
Breathe with me, Jojo.
I can't
Breathe, Jojo.
breathe.
Don't think, just breathe.
I can't.
You did it.
Did it.
Breathe again, slowly.
I-
Don't speak, don't think, just breathe. In, count to 4. Hold it, count to 4. Breathe out, count to 4. Let's do it again. In, count to 4. Hold it, count to 4. Breathe out, count to 4 again. In, count to 4. Hold it, count to 4. Breathe out, count to 4. Last time. In, count to 4. Hold it, count to 4. Out, count to 4. You feeling calmer now, Jojo?
Yes. Yes, very much. I heard you only treat artists. Why?
Because I love artists. Without the arts, we would have no way to reflect on our behavior. The species would never evolve. We would simply die off like the dinosaurs, and I wouldn't have a job.
I'm not an artist.
Well, you've won several awards already for your poetry.
Student awards. It means nothing. That doesn't make me an artist. Poetry is so random. I have no control over it.
Poetry reminds me of wildflowers.
How so?
They just blossom.
So?
Let's start, okay? We can do more deep breathing. Ready? Take a breath in, hold, release. Another breath in, hold, release. A deep breath in, hold, gently release. And now let's start the countdown from 20.
Why 20?
What would you like to start with?
21.
Okay. Why 21?
I don't know. What's the magic number?
God only knows.
So?
So let's ask him.
Did you really just say that?
Yeah, I guess I did.
That was really dumb.
I know.
You are so weird.
I know. Come on, read with me, Jojo. 20, and you say the next number?
19.
18.
17. Oh no.
There's a deep silence.
Where are you, Jojo?
In my room. Angel's dead.
Angel?
Angel.
What happened?
She's under my bed. Dead.
Angel is a dog?
No. My bunny. Bigger than my dog. A white albino snowshoe rabbit. Lenny brought him to me last Easter with a pink bow on the cage.
Ah, Sweet.
Lenny always knows when I'm hurting.
Boyfriend.
No, best friend.
Hurting.
I don't like sex, so it's okay.
What's okay?
Lenny has somebody else for the sex. It's really okay. I'm okay with that. But everybody laughs at us. They tell me I should be jealous, but I'm not.
Shall we continue?
Sure.
16.
15.
Another deep silence.
Are you okay? Where are you now?
Lenny's car. I drank an entire bottle of Boone's Farm without a breath. The guys thought I was going to die. Lenny called my mom. My dad came and got me. My mom made me drink hot milk with pepper and butter to make me puke. Ugh.
14.
Uh-huh.
14.
14. Yes.
14. What happened when you were 14, Jojo?
I am only 14.
Where are you, Jojo?
Filthy, dirty apartment. He knew my older sister. I thought it would be okay. They have needles. He never saw needles before. Annie and I were afraid. We thought we could go to jail. He had me put the needle in his vein. Then
Jojo, where are you?
the Penn Avenue schoolyard,
And what are you doing?
playing basketball.
Who is with you?
Annie,
We hear the sound of a basketball bouncing. Shadow figures emerge with the ball and play with Jojo.
hey, Benny,
Hey, sweet cakes.
this is my friend Annie.
Jojo, we need to go home.
Come on, girls.
There's a giant poster of Woody Woodpecker in a Superman suit.
These older guys aren't cool, Jojo.
Hey, you wanna be my girlfriend?
He's only a year older. He's in 10th grade.
Jojo, let's go.
I've been checking you out, sweet cakes.
Jojo, let's go.
Yeah, let's go. The party is right over here.
Annie, please don't leave me alone.
Stay here, Jojo. Stay here. Tell me what you see. 13.
He was laughing at me. I swear, the cartoon, I could hear it. The blue powder, I drank the whole thing. Annie didn't even take a sip.
He drugged you. It's not your fault, Jojo. 12.
I was about to throw up, and then he punched me in the face.
11.
He pulled out a big chunk of my hair, so I bit him, and he punched me in the face.
Listen, Jojo. Just listen and breathe in. 10. Breathe out. 9.
He knocked me into a pile of cockroaches. I hit my head.
8.
I don't. I can't. You're hurting me.
7.
Jesus, I'm bleeding.
6.
Please. I need to go.
5.
Let me go.
4.
You little bitch.
4.
You're breaking my neck.
3.
Oh my God.
2.
You are killing me.
1. Jojo, listen to my voice. We are going to come back now. I'm going to count back up to 10. I want you to come back to the present as soon as I snap my fingers.
Uh-huh.
1, 2, 3, 4,
Let me go.
5,
Stop.
Now breathe with me, Jojo. 6. Jojo, listen to me. 7. It's Dr. Michael's, Jojo. 8. I want you to come back up now, Jojo. 9, 10. Take a deep breath and sit slowly up.
Do me wrong with my friend.
Jojo, are you all right?
You just watched me getting raped.
No, Jojo. You watched you getting raped.
Benny, he was watching. He opened the door. I was laying on the floor bleeding, trying to cover up. And he says, do me wrong with my friend.
Jojo, it's very important that you listen to my voice right now. I'm going to guide you through this. In your mind, you have thoughts from the past, and you have feelings about them. You have thoughts and you have feelings, but you also have a third aspect of your mind, and it's called attention. Together, we are going to redirect your attention when these thoughts and feelings try to come back to you. The only way to forget a bad memory is to replace it with a good one. Now, Jojo, think about something that you experienced that was really, really cool, something beautiful, something really beautiful. What do you see?
Flowers. Purple flowers
Where?
in the woods.
Can you smell them?
Lilacs.
Who are you with, Jojo?
No one.
No one?
I used to wander in the woods by myself. I was walking and this butterfly whizzed right past me and dove into the flowers like it was inviting me to look. I remember smiling.
Look closer at the flowers. And now, think of your absolute favorite song.
The Beatles.
The Beatles.
Yes, the Beatles. Good day, sunshine.
Jojo, place your hand on your heart.
Okay.
And now, think about those flowers. Did you ever see them again?
Yes. My friend Lenny brought them to me when I was in the hospital. He said he found them growing wild in his backyard.
You're smiling.
Yes.
Can you feel your heart beating? That's your center. That center that makes you feel calm as it gives you courage. If those memories return, you put your hand on your heart, close your eyes, and see the flowers.
Okay.
Another deep silence.
Jojo, I want you to feel the silence. When you have a thought, whether it's from your past, you can erase it with silence. A thought comes from you, it belongs to you, but the silence belongs to everyone. That is what makes it so powerful. The silence knows no past, no future, just the unexpected present. Those bad memories are still in your head, Jojo, but they are blanketed by your flowers, and the voices, they are barely audible because they are stifled by the silence. It's not that they're really gone, it's just that we used your power of attention to diminish them, and I promise you that if you ever need me, I will be here to guide you back into the silence. And I promise you are safe by the power of your own attention.
Never leave me, Dr. Michaels. My father used to say that there were people who thrive on the misfortune of others.
Thank you very much. It was wonderful.
Thank you, Connie. Thank you, everyone.
That was,
Thank you. Thank you.
that was powerful. It's like, I was mesmerized by that. How
Yeah,
do you-
I didn't see the rehearsals. They just did it. So there's more to it, as you said, but we stopped it right there. So
Mm. Any comments or questions or anything?
Well, just one, thank you so much for this beautiful performance. I've actually never seen a play on Zoom. So this was like my first
It was the
experience.
first-
Honestly, like I felt so immersed. Like, so it was, well, yeah, just again, powerful, very moving, and like there's so much like I'm processing from what I had seen. But yeah, just again, the amount of like energy from like all of the characters and just like pouring it. I don't know. I felt like I was sitting there like in the room and even though I like, right, that's not necessarily like my story, right? But like also with being like a survivor too, like there are so many like parallel, I'm like losing the words how to say it, but parallels like that I think any survivor watching this, or I imagine even being in it, could relate to. So again, just like thank you for sharing this moment with us. And yeah, I'm sure there's more that's going to come up, but I just wanted to say that it was just really moving. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Amanda, for your comments and for your, I guess it's like almost feeling like you're an observer participant and not just due to your past experiences, but the way you felt immersed in the performances. Right now, I'm trying to like process and catch my breath. And after that, just being in the piece as an actor. I had something happen to me about a week ago where I was on a train and a stranger, I was the only woman on the train. And I was working on this. We had it was the day before our first rehearsal. And I was the only woman. There weren't a lot of people on the train, and it was like 4:30 in the afternoon, and they were all men on the train, and I was the only woman. And there was someone laying on a bench with their face down, and then all of a sudden they popped up and they accosted and threatened to kill me. And I was the only woman and used derogatory language that applies only to women. And so, the B word and other words, and they tried to follow me. They tried to follow me off the train, and it was really a scary experience. And I thought about, processing that for being part of this. And as women, we've had all of our, different experiences with discrimination, harassment, abuse. And I thought, this told me the universe is speaking. I'm meant to speak for women and speak through this piece and channel it all through this piece. And even just walking in my building yesterday, like not asking for objectification in this patriarchal society. Like I'm just walking in my building and I have someone gorgeous, love you, and whistling and throwing kisses at me. And you don't ask for that you're just going about your business, walking through your day. And that type of objectification and violation. And I was listening to what Connie was saying earlier, and I know how I feel, is that art elevates all of this and takes our, all of the pain and all of the struggle and elevates it through a beauty, through our common experiences of us being able to share with each other and speak up. And it makes us powerful then when we speak up, and it makes other people feel powerful and feel like they have a voice and they can speak up too, I feel.
No, thank you so much for this. Like Amanda, I have never seen a play on Zoom, but at some point I was in that therapy room with you guys. It was like totally immersed, and to also reinforce what Amanda said, like we may have had different experiences in terms of the actual sexual violence that we experienced, but the rage, oh yeah. absolutely connect to it. The back and forth with the flashbacks and having the therapist help you process it. Yeah, I was in the therapy room too. And the betrayal, whether it's a friend, a family, or even a stranger, that sense of betrayal that we all carry, that we feel it's our fault, that, you know, the complexity of all the feelings, like they were all there. So it's so genuine. I think where I'm headed is that it's very validating, because whenever, especially in the first stages, or when you're going through the flashbacks, like the world is going around you, like nothing is happening, and you're like trapped in this loop of memories, and seeing it reflected by somebody, written by somebody I don't know, acted by somebody I never seen, then it's like, wow, I'm not alone in my experience. So is that, again, that what we discussed at the beginning, that equalizing ground, that, you know, it not only happened to me in that regard, and it's validating. I wish it didn't happen to anybody, but it certainly makes you feel less alone.
Connie, how do you feel listening to people respond to your play?
This is a true story. Absolutely true story. I always shared these stories. I have two daughters, 35 and 32. And I always shared with them and their friends. And the more I work on this, the more I feel I'm meant to combat violence. Like I said, not just sexual violence, but all violence. Nobody has a right to hurt anybody. And, you know, I think that's the main goal of art, to help repair, to do the repair work, and to make the light shine, to get through the darkness. And I actually, about 10 years ago, I don't want to say any names or anything, but I read in the paper online that the son of the fellow it was a man that raped me, was arrested for rape of a 17-year-old girl. And he said the same thing: age has nothing to do with it. The father taught the son to disrespect women. And I just knew then and there that I'm meant to put my voice out there, no matter how ugly it is, no matter if people say, well, just because it happened, it doesn't mean it's worth putting on stage. You know, I have to speak my truth, and you know, if it's ugly, it's ugly, but it's there. And like you said, you know, that's the importance of art, the exaltation of the spirit. And when our spirits connect, that's when it empowers. That's when it moves through.
Well, that's it. It elicits an emotional response from the audience.
Mm-hmm.
That is what art is all about. You know,
Absolutely.
It's coming from your perspective, from your own personal experience, to sitting and listening and watching what the audience and how the audience is responding to your story. That's what it's all about. It's about sharing your story.
Absolutely.
It's about using it as a preventative awareness tool, because the more we get the stories out there, the more we talk about it, the more aware, the more empowering it becomes for young girls and women to say, I don't need to deal with this. I don't need to just move into the background. I have a voice and I can speak up. And that's what's so important by sharing all of this through the visual art, through your play. I think, and I'm sure you've probably thought about actually doing it in front of an audience and actually having a counselor and therapist there to raise and talk and have a dialogue afterwards, because like you said, it elicits a lot of emotions from anybody that's sitting and watching it and listening to it. Whether you have been sexually assaulted or raped or whatever, you can relate to part of it. And it is so powerful to see. Yeah, it was the first time I ever did a production like this, a performance like this on Zoom. I think we should do more of that. I think it's terrific. But Connie, I thank you so much for sharing that. That was truly amazing.
We talked about the line of art and the line or life. And was it Amanda that said about the hug, that art is like a hug? That's exactly it, because I believe that we all come from and go to love. And that's when we feel powerful, when we come from and go to love. Along the way, we meet other people. And that's, if we can provide a little bit of love for them, then it's, love is a verb. We feel that, and then we take it with us.
Yeah, no, it's just, I actually love that statement, about art. And when you think about it, when you said that, I sat back and I was thinking about all the times I would pick up a paintbrush or a pencil and write. And yeah, it's a way of loving myself back. It's giving myself permission to say how I think and feel. And that's loving yourself. And that's loving yourself enough then to share it with somebody else.
Yes.
But that does, I think, also take a lot of courage to do that, to tell your story publicly, particularly if it's a story of victimization and survivorship. So I'd like to honor you as well for putting that story out there. And I think there's a lot there that can be related to by others, by me. Story is quite different. Other people's story, my story. Everyone's story is different, but everyone can also identify with parts of it. And I just really honor the courage in writing plays and other artwork of putting that much of yourself into it and up for discussion.
You're absolutely. I still have that feeling. I was telling Carrie when she was rehearsing this, that when I went to college, I was afraid to go in the showers. I would go in the shower late at night when no one was around, or else 5 a.m, so that I wouldn't have to face anybody else. And I still cringe when I think about the experience, and it's there. And, even hearing my own experience, you're right, it takes courage, but like I said, I know that we're meant to do this. It does help. It is a hug.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with everything that that you all have said. And I totally appreciate all of you for participating in this. And my hope is that we continue the discussion, continue sharing, everybody's art and stories, because I think that is super important. I'd kind of like to ask anybody or everybody on who's here, if I were to ask you to, in 1 or 2 simple words, to voice art's value, what would you say?
Voice the value of the arts.
Thank you, Carrie.
For me, it's connection. It's connection, because as I've been listening to the last part of the conversation, is I keep going back to the journey of healing can also be very lonely. Like, no matter our support group or therapy or whatever, like it is still, you are in your experience by yourself, and it's in the sharing of the art that some other, like others feel validated, and you give permission to others to share their story. So there's a powerful connecting value to art that makes this journey way less lonely.
My 2 words, it would be cycle breaker. I just feel like when I opened up about my survivorship, that's when I learned about more and more people in my circle, in my family, who have also experienced sexual trauma, and the generational trauma. And I just feel like putting the art out there and talking about it and spreading awareness and just being raw, like we all are being today, it's breaking the cycle. Like we are ending sexual violence and what we're doing every day by showing our art. So, yeah.
Oh, I just wanted to say, the girl that, when you say breaking the cycle, the girl that got raped at 17, 20 years or 30 years later, she was, the guy picked her up, took her to a cemetery, and he was drunk as can be, and he passed out. She stole his wallet, ran home to her mother, and then went to the police that night. So he got apprehended right away. So that's what I'm saying. I feel like talking about it, being able to talk about it in my classes when I taught at the university and such, this, you have to talk about it. You know, we can't cover it up.
Yeah, talking and sharing is healing. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it breaks the cycle.
Yeah, it's preventative. Yeah, it's preventative.
Yeah. The 2 words that came to me, I'm not quite sure why, are deep sharing. That art is a way of sharing deeply. And what I meant to say before too is that I think the deeper someone shares, it gives permission for others to also go deeper and to examine themselves, and also to explore others. But I think a lot of the power is going deeper, so giving people permission to look within.
Yeah.
I think darkness to light, transforming darkness to light and pain to healing in our common humanity and experience.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I applaud all of you. I thank you so much for this. It was, it was amazing, actually. It was just to listen to all of you, share and tell your stories. It's like I said, it's something that we need and I want to do on a regular basis. So yeah, you all will be hearing from me. What I will do is send everybody else's contact information and put the links on and some other resources. Through my research, I found a gallery. I don't know if Manda, I don't know if you've heard of it or what. It's called Awakenings Art in Chicago. It's a gallery that just totally is focused on survivor art and doing that. And they've got some amazing things on their website. So I'm going to send, everybody the information that I found while I was doing this research. But I also, from that, there's also a preventative, we need to use the arts, not just sharing our stories, but as a prevention tool for girls and teenagers on college campuses, and just out there generally. And maybe next time that we could talk about that and using the arts as a tool for prevention and what we can do, moving forward. So I'd like to thank everybody for.
Thank you for organizing, Louis.
Oh, it
Thank you
was
for hosting.
The opportunity.
purely my pleasure.
Thank you
It
for hosting us.
truly is. I look forward to the next time. And I'm so happy
Absolutely.
to have met all of you.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much.
Karen, stay around. Don't go anywhere, Karen.
you.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Connie, I'll talk to you next week.
Great. Night, everybody. Thank you.
Night. Have a good
Thank you
night.
so much for sharing. Good night.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night.